Hi everyone, this is the CMS Conf podcast, your go-to source for everything CMS, marketing and modern web development. Today, we are diving into SEO with Kacper Krasnodębski from Vilaro, who will tell us how the WordPress structure might be hurting our rankings. If you work with websites, this episode is definitely for you.
Hello everyone, and thank you for being here. My name is Kacper Krasnodębski, and I am the CEO team leader at Vilaro. Today I want to talk about something that is often invisible in WordPress projects, but has a very real impact on SEO, and that is structure. Not content quality, not backlinks, not even plugins, structure. Because in many WordPress websites, the SEO problem is not that the site has a bad content. The problem is that WordPress creates too many pages, too many archive types, too many URL variations, and too many places where search engines can go without finding much real value. And the worst part is this. A lot of these problems are not created by developers. They are not even created by SEO specialists. They are created by default behavior. Some people love WordPress and some people really do not, but personal opinion is not the important part here. What matters is that a huge number of websites still run on WordPress, and that is unlikely to change anytime soon. So if the structure is wrong, the SEO damage scales with it. And what is exactly why this topic matters? Because today, one of the biggest SEO problems on many WordPress websites is not the content itself. It is the way the website is structured. So today I want to talk through several structural elements in WordPress that often hurt SEO, especially when they are left unmanaged. I will start with one of the biggest misunderstandings: tags and taxonomies. They will move into pagination, category archives, and a few other WordPress-specific traps that can create index bloat, thin pages, crawl inefficiency, and low-quality URLs showing up in search results. The core idea of this talk is simple. Just because WordPress can generate a page does not mean that page should exist for SEO. Let's start with tags. Tags are not a keyword storage system. This is probably one of the common mistakes I see in WordPress. Someone creates a blog post and WordPress shows them a field called tags. And because the interface looks simple and because the word tag sounds a bit like keyword, people start using tags as if they were a place to store SEO terms. So they write a post about technical SEO and then they add tags like SEO, technical SEO, WordPress SEO, Google ranking, on-page SEO. From their perspective, this feels useful. It feels organized. It feels like they are helping SEO, but in reality, they are often creating a mess. Why? Because in WordPress, tags are not hidden metadata. They are usually public taxonomies that generate archive pages. So every time someone adds a new tag, they may also be creating a new indexable URL. And if those tags are inconsistent, too specific, duplicated, or only used once or twice, then WordPress starts generating dozens or hundreds of low-value archive pages. Now, imagine this at scale. You have 200 blog posts. Each post has 5 to 10 tags. Different authors use different naming conventions. Some use singular, some plural. Some use SEO, others use search engine optimization. Some use tags once and never again. Very quickly, you end up with a taxonomy system. This is not helping users and not helping search engines. Instead, it creates thin archive pages with little unique value. And that is the key question we should ask about every taxonomy in WordPress. Does this archive help a real user accomplish something? If the answer is no, then it probably should not be indexable, because a good taxonomy is not a bag of keywords. A good taxonomy is a navigational system. It helps users discover related content in a meaningful way. That means tags should be used only when they create a real content cluster. They should group posts around a topic that makes sense for users, not just for editors. For example, if you run a marketing blog, you have a clear tag for case studies or site migrations or core web vitals, and each of those leads to a genuinely used archive page with enough content, then fine. But if tags are being used casually, inconsistently, or only because the editor thinks maybe Google will like more keywords, then that is where the damage begins. Because Google does not reward taxonomy chaos, it rewards clarity. So the practical takeaway here it is treat tags as information architecture, not metadata. Use them only if they create strong archive hubs. Keep the system small and intentional. Merge duplicates, remove weak tags. And if tag archives are not useful, consider disabling them or at least preventing them from being indexed. A smaller taxonomy is usually a better taxonomy. Now, let's move on from the tags to categories. Categories are usually more important than tags. In most WordPress sites, categories are part of the main structure. They often appear in menus, breadcrumbs, internal linking, and URLs. So in theory, category archives can be very strong SEO pages, but in practice, they are often neglected. What usually happens is this. At the beginning of project, somebody creates a list of categories, maybe 6, maybe 10, maybe 20. It looks organized, but then over time, those categories are not managed strategically. Some become too broad, some remain nearly empty, some overlap in meaning, and nobody writes unique copy for the category page themselves. So once again, WordPress creates archive pages, but nobody is really owning them. And that is how category archives end up ranking in search results with poor titles, weak snippets, or very little context. Sometimes the category page appears in Google instead of the individual article that would actually be more useful for the user. And sometimes category pages become thin, paginated, repetitive listing pages that exist mostly because WordPress generated them. The issue is not that category archives are bad. The issue is that unmanaged category archives are bad. A strong category page can be a great SEO asset. It can act like a hub page. It can include a good introduction, clear internal links, featured articles, and meaningful grouping of content around a topic. But a weak category page is just another low-value URL, so the decision should be intentional. If category archives are important to your content model, then optimize them properly. Give them unique titles, write a useful introductory copy, curate what appears there. Make the category meaningful. But if serene categories have no clear users purpose, then don't let them clutter the index just because they exist in WordPress. SEO is not about maximizing the number of pages. It is about maximizing the number of valuable pages. Now, let's talk about pagination. This is one of those problems that looks harmless until the site gets bigger. By default, WordPress generates archive pages, blogs, category archives, tag archives, product listings, and other listings can all create page 2, page 3, page 17, or page 46. And so on. And in many cases, those paginated pages remain craveable and indexable. Now, pagination itself is not evil, but we need it for usability. The problem is when every paginated content is treated as if it deserves a place in search results, because usually it doesn't. Page 1 of a blog archive might have some value. Page 2 often has less. Page 9 usually has almost none of a landing page from Google. The user not want to start their journey on our website on page 7 of your category archive. And yet search engines may spend time crawling all of those URLs, especially on large sites with lots of posts or products. This becomes particularly sensitive in two areas: content-heavy blogs and WooCommerce stores. If you have 100 or thousands of products, paginated category page can multiply very quickly. Add filters, sorting options, and multiple taxonomy combinations, and suddenly the crawl page becomes enormous. And then the SEO team wonders why important product pages are not being crawled efficiently, or why strange archive URLs keep showing up in Search Console. This is where WordPress structure starts working against you, because the CMS is doing what it was designed to do: generating browsable content lists. But SEO requires a second question: which of these URLs are actually worth indexing? This is not the same question. A URL can be useful for navigation without being useful as an entry page from search. So the goal with pagination is not necessarily to block everything. It is to control what deserves indexation. In many cases, the first page of an archive is the main SEO target. Deeper paginated pages may still need to be crawlable for discovery, but they often do not need the same visibility in search. Also, paginated URLs should not dominate your sitemap strategy. Your XML sitemap should focus on pages you truly want indexed and ranked. And this is especially important for e-commerce, where pagination can combine with filters to create a massive number of low priority pages. If you do nothing, WordPress can quietly create an environment where search engines spend time on structural leftovers instead of strategies landing pages. And this is exactly the kind of hidden SEO cost many site owners never notice. The next one: archive pages that nobody actually uses. One of the most common WordPress SEO patterns is this: the site has many archive types, but almost nobody uses them intentionally. Tag archives, author archives, date archives, custom taxonomy archives, maybe search results, product attribute archives. They are all technically there, but are they part of the real user journey? Usually not. And when archive pages are created without a purpose, they become SEO noise. So if WordPress exposes archive pages, links to them, includes them in navigation, or allows them to be discovered, search engines may crawl and index them. And then these pages begin competing for attention. You may have a well-written article, but Google finds the archive instead. You may have a great category page, but Google keeps crawling quick tag pages. You may want product pages to dominate, but filtered archives absorb crawl activity. In other words, the problem isn't just crawl budget in technical sense. It is also focus. Too many low-value URLs impact the site's overall structure. They weaken internal linking signals. They create ambition about which pages matter, and they increase the risk of thin or representative pages entering the index. This is why every WordPress site should go through a basic structural audit and ask which archive types serve a real SEO purpose, types serve a real user purpose, and which one are just leftovers from default CMS behavior. That one exercise can reveal a lot. Let's talk briefly about two archive types that often exist for no good reason: author archives and date archives. On a multi-author publishing website, author archives can make sense. A user may genuinely want to browse all content written by a specific author. If the author has expertise, a profile, and a meaningful content library, this article can be useful. But on a single author company blog, usually not. In this case, the author archive is often just another copy of the blog listing, presented through of different URLs. And the date archives can be even worse. Monthly archives, yearly archives, day-based archives. These are features that made sense in old blogging culture, but on many modern sites, they are very little value. Does a user really want to search May 2023 archive on your company website? Almost never, but WordPress can still generate those pages and themselves sometimes link to them automatically. That means more thin archive pages, more duplication, and more crawl paths that do not support business goals. So again, the right question is this structure helping users and helping search? If not, simplify it. Most sites benefit from reducing archive types, not expanding them. If you work with WooCommerce, then structure becomes even more critical because now we are not just talking about post and block archives. We are talking about product categories, product tags, attributes like size and color, sorting options, on sale view, pagination, and filter combinations. And this is where URL growth can become explosive. One product category can create multiple states, add pagination to those states, add sorting, add search parameters, and suddenly a store has thousands of creatable combinations that nobody planned for. This is one of biggest structural SEO risk in WordPress e-commerce, and it often happens silently because the store looks fine from the front end. Users can browse, products are visible, nothing seems broken. But from a SEO perspective, the site is generating too many nearly duplicated pathways. And when search engines spend time crawling those pathways, they are spending less energy on the URL that actually matter. Core category pages, product pages, or important landing pages. So for WooCommerce sites, structure cannot be an afterthought. Taxonomies need governance. Filter behavior needs control. Pagination needs review. And only selected archive states should be allowed to become SEO asset. Everything else should be treated as utility, not as content. That distinction is very important. Not every browsable state is a landing page. Let me add one more point here. A lot of WordPress websites treat XML sitemaps as passive output. The plugin generates them, so people assume they are fine. But a sitemap is not just a technical file, it is a signal. It tells search engines, these are URLs I considered important. So if your sitemap is filled with tag archives, weak paginated URLs, attachment pages, thin taxonomies, or low-value custom post types, then your own site is sending mixed messages. You are saying, please crawl and index everything, even when everything is not useful. A good sitemap strategy is selective. It supports the URLs you can actually want search engines to prioritize. And that means sitemap management should follow structural decisions, not the other way around. So let me close with this idea. WordPress is not bad for SEO, but unmanaged WordPress is very good at creating SEO problems. It creates pages easily, it creates archive easily, it creates taxonomies easily, it creates URL easily, and all of that is fine until nobody stops to ask whether those pages deserve to exist in search. This is the real issue. SEO in WordPress is not only about metadata, plugins, or content optimization. It is about deciding what should be craveable, what should be indexable, what should simply remain part of the CMS without becoming part of the search footprint. So when you look at the WordPress site, don't just ask what content do we have. Also ask what URLs has the system created around that content. Which of them are actually useful and which of them are quietly hurting us. Because sometimes your rankings are not limited by what you failed to publish. Sometimes they are limited by everything WordPress published for you. Thank you.
That's all for today. Thank you so much for listening to the CMS Conf podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, make sure to follow us and stay tuned for more. Catch you next week.